this is a suppression of left-wing voices. It really is. And, Donald Trump has made no bones about it. He said over and over again that if you criticize him, that's going beyond free speech. He just recently said that. He said when you have 90% of the news about one person, as though he didn't want that to exactly be that is what he wants, that's not free speech anymore. And that free speech, it has limits, which is crazy because all these people were screaming free speech, 6 months ago. So anyways, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was just recently, the New York Times push back. And that's great. I think that is great. I don't know how long it's going to stay. I don't know how long that they will hold out, because we've seen this before. But in this story, the New York Times rebukes Pentagon reporter restrictions at stark odds with the constitutional protections. The Department of Defense explains it remains committed to transparency, but now requires approval before reporting can be published. How insane is this world that we're living in right now, that we've literally gotten to the point now that the New York Times is being told that they can go ahead and they can do their thing, but first it has to go through the government, and the government has to approve what is reported. That's insane. The New York Times will not abide by new restrictions on reporters set by the Pentagon, which requires pre-approval before reporting can be published. The paper announced Saturday morning as a spokesperson for the Times insisted such restrictions are at stark odds with the constitutional protections of a free press in a democracy. The Times statement read in full, asking independent journalists to submit to these kinds of restrictions is some of these articles are 100% fucking AI. It just repeats the same thing over again. It's just insane. We're getting to a point where there is no free press. It's just AI. This is yet another step in a concerning pattern of reducing access to what the U.S. military is undertaking at taxpayer expense. Our journalists will continue to report the facts deeply and fairly, the statement concluded. I was thinking about reaching out to Clay Risen, who is the reporter that I did the interview with on the Red Scare book, and asking a little bit about his opinion on this. In a 17-page memorandum dated September 18th, 2025, the Pentagon issued new documents in support of the May 23rd updated physical control measures for press media access within the Pentagon. Though the Department of Defense, it's not the Department of Defense anymore. Guys, you need to update your AI. It's the Department of War, okay? Department of War. That's the only way you can say that. You don't say Department of War. It's Department of War, okay? It's war. We're talking about war. So the Department of War insists it remains committed to transparency to promote accountability and public trust. The document also warned that information must be approved for public release by an appropriate authorizing official before it's released, even if it is unclassified. And if you don't get why they're doing that, it's because so much shit has been leaked, right? There's a ton of stuff that has been leaked, and they don't want this anymore. They are tired of looking like fools, which, if you fucking hire clowns, then you get a circus, right? I don't understand how even Donald Trump could convince himself that this wasn't going to be a shit show, considering that he hired a bunch of podcasters and Fox News bros. But that is pretty much what they're concerned about. In addition to requiring approval before reporting is released to the public, the document also removes access to swaths of the Pentagon unless a reporter is accompanied by an approved escort. This is a stark change to previous policy, which allowed unescorted access throughout the building, apart from offices and meeting rooms. The update comes days after Trump filed a $15 billion lawsuit against the Times. That lawsuit was later dismissed. Of course it was. And the thing about this, and one of the things I wanted to see here, maybe it's up here, actually. Oh, here we go. So this is the Ted Cruz. We find ourselves in the strangest times, right? Because what Ted Cruz says here is 100% correct. And this is, he's talking about what happened with Jimmy Kimmel when it was pulled off air. And this is what Cruz said, because this is really important. We end up in this place where we're hearing people that generally we dislike politically or, policy-wise, but even they are scared of how far this administration is taking these issues, especially with freedom of speech. Like I've said, there's a big difference between your Republican conservative politicians and your MAGA politicians, and that is that the MAGA politicians oftentimes, they're not concerned about how far Donald Trump goes. They like it. They revel in it. They love it. They like seeing him like push the envelope as far as he possibly can, right? Whereas a lot of conservatives, a lot of Republicans, they know that this is potentially going to lead to something happening to them after Donald Trump has either, summarily passed away or is just out of office, if that ever happens. So this is what Ted Cruz had to say that. He said, "I hate what Jimmy Kimmel said. I am thrilled that he was fired. But let me tell you, if the government gets in the business of saying, we don't like what you, the media, have said, we're going to ban you from the airways if you don't say what we like, that will end up bad for conservatives." So, it's once again, it's this game with conservatives where it's like they start by saying one thing and then they follow it up with a qualifier to make themselves sound a little bit more sane. And to be honest, he's 100% correct. This is going to be used against conservatives if we ever have a democratically elected president again, because there is a good chance at this point that it will be a Democrat. And I'm not even saying that because the Democrats have a lot of options, but that is generally the way that the pendulum swings. We tend to go really far one way, and then we tend to really far go back, and overcorrect to the other side. So this is what he had to say about the FCC's car, who has been celebrating getting Jimmy Kimmel fired. He said, "Going down this road, there will come a time when a Democrat wins the White House. They will silence us. They will use this power, and they will use it ruthlessly, and that is dangerous." There's no doubt the Commerce Committee has oversight, authority, and responsibility over the FCC, and when the Democrats had the majority, they did not engage in oversight. We will do our jobs and engage in oversight, is what I believe the FCC guy said. So this is really important, and to be honest with you, the left should be listening to this. When that pendulum does send its momentum back to the left, yeah, you should actually stand up there and say to every single conservative out there, remember? Do you remember when? Do you remember when? And, I'm not a person that feels like we should be going down this slippery slope into authoritarianism, no matter what side it's on. I don't think that the left should be doing it. I don't think that the right should be doing it. I don't think that anybody should be doing this. But I do believe that if there is not a equal and opposite reaction to what conservatives are doing today, once a Democrat does take office, you are never going to have a democratically elected official ever again in any office, because Democrats are just going to stop voting. And, we've talked about this before when we talk about minorities, when we talk about LGBT people. A lot of times, you lose some of that vote because in, the greater scheme of things, progressives, just Democrats, really, Democrats have not followed through in a way that feels like it's actually making a difference. So right now you have, of course, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer sending strongly worded letters to Donald Trump about the CR that's going on right now. And if you don't see some type of honest attempt by Democrats in Congress to actually push back against Trump and say, we will shut down the government, we do not have a problem with that. If you continue to say we're not going to get anything from the CR, if you're just going to cut Medicaid, if they do that, once again, they lose those voters. They'll lose me. They lose anybody that wants to see actual positive change in a society. So he's right. They should be scared. They should be obscenely concerned that if they go this route and continue to push the envelope in the way that they have, that the moment that there is a House majority, the moment that there is a Senate majority, you are going to feel the repercussions for those actions. And obviously that's what I think it was. Jared Moskowitz told the FCC chairman the other day, he said, you better get a lawyer. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell, and check out that video on the screen now.